Hello class, in this short PowerPoint presentation, I'm going to give you ideas that will help you be successful in nursing school. We all know that nursing school is time consuming, but the end result is great. And if you learn to have good study habits in the beginning, this will help you throughout your nursing education and will help you to reach your goal of becoming a registered nurse. So one of the first things you have to do when you are thinking about continuing your education and getting into nursing school is, what are your priorities and how do you manage your priorities, especially now if you're adding education to an already busy schedule. So some of your priorities may include work, may include family, friends, exercise, and now we've added the component of nursing. So how am I going to get everything done with the same amount of time I had before I entered nursing school? Well, one of the things you can do is list your priorities. So I would suggest you take out a piece of paper and write down the top 3 things that are most important to you in life. So it could be family, friends, work, religion, and nursing school should be on that list. What I want to talk to you about is that when you're in nursing school, especially when you're in a course that lasts 7.5 or 15 weeks, sometimes your priorities may change. And it's not to mean that your family or work or something isn't as important. It's just that during this time period, you might need to make nursing school a priority, knowing that when you're done with the course or when you're on break, you can possibly spend more time with your family, work a few more hours. So think about how you're going to list your priorities and how you can think about rearranging them. In this, I'm going to go back a minute. In this module, you'll be doing a calendar, and one of the things that you're going to be doing is looking at how you're going to manage your priorities. And when you do that calendar, make sure that you include your work, your family commitments, your sleep, and I suggest you put them in various colors and then include in that calendar when you're going to study. And we'll talk about when and where is the best time to study. But remember that when you put that study time in, it's like you're making an appointment with yourself. You're scheduling your time to go to class yourself. Especially if you're taking online classes, you need to make sure that you are taking that time out. So think about your study habits. Where do you study? When do you study? How do you study? Some of you may find that you study at home. Some of you might find you study outside. And if you're lucky and have a nice day, you can study outside. Or some of you might find that you study in the library. One of the most important things that you can do when you start nursing school is find your study place. And many times it's in your house, because that way you're able to not leave and go anywhere. So do you have a quiet area in your house? The worst places that you could study would be your kitchen table, your couch, or your bed, because the couch and the bed are very comfortable, and the kitchen table is usually used for other uses. So where in your house could you find a place where you could set up a desk or a table? Now you might be lucky and you might have an office, and that's great. But if you don't, do you have some place where you could put a desk, such as a basement? Students have told me they've used closets, dining rooms that maybe don't get used. A folding table in a bedroom is a great idea as long as it's away from the bed, has a good chair, and you're not going to go use the bed when you're studying. So think of this place where you can set up your office, your classroom, while you're in nursing school. Then when you have figured out that place, make sure that you have all the supplies you need. So some of the things you're going to put on your study desk is going to obviously be your books, and your textbooks are very important, but you might find that you might want additional supportive textbooks, such as if you're in your med-surg classes, a pathophysiology book. If you're in pharmacology, you might want another nurse's drug book. One of the books that many students have suggested and have liked is Nurse's Memory Notebook, because it's filled with acronyms and pictures, and many students have found that to be a very good resource. So on that study desk, make sure that you have all the books you need to use to study. Have your computer, have extra paper, post-it notes, paper clips, have pens and pencils, and most important, have snacks. And why do I tell you to have snacks? Because when you sit down to study, let's say I'm studying every day from 4 to 6. That is my time to study. If I decide I need to get up and get a cup of coffee or a banana, what happens is I might find something else to do on my way to the kitchen. I might need to throw in a load of laundry or make a phone call, and my 2 hours of study time now has turned into 1 hour or less. So make sure you have all your supplies necessary. The one thing you don't want to take with you to your study place is your cell phone. I know that's really hard, but what happens when you put that cell phone on the edge of that desk is it dings, it rings, and you just really have to look at that text to see who called you or texted you, or make that phone call. And again, it works into your study time. If you have children or you're expecting calls, possibly have a family or friend take your calls, or know that's when children should call you during that time, because act as if your study time is if you are actually in a classroom and you would not be able to be bothered. So make your study time extremely important, and nothing should get in the way of it. So one of the most important things you can do is in your house, find a workplace where you can go and make it your own for your time in nursing school. If it's impossible to find a place and that happens, make a study suitcase or backpack and put everything in it so that when you're ready to go to the library or to a quiet area outside your house, it's all packed and ready to go. You don't want to be spending 15 minutes packing things up, because that 15 minutes is so precious when you're in school that you don't want to be wasting that time. So have that set up ahead of time. We talked about that important calendar you're going to make, and that calendar should be made every time you start a section of classes. When are you going to have to be at school? When are you going to have to be at work or at home? And when are you going to study? That is very important. And I'm going to talk to you about good study times, but you even need to consider hiring a babysitter so that you are not distracted, or taking your children to family or friends so that you have quiet study time. There's that all-important calendar. I cannot tell you enough that the best nursing students are the ones that are very organized, have a good calendar, and know what is expected. Okay, so when should you study? When are you at your best? I am at my best in the morning. I am a morning person. I know if I have to do things, I do them early in the morning. But some of you may be best at night. So think of the time of day when you are at your peak, and that's when you should schedule your study time if you are able. If you're not, think of another time where it's still okay. So my second time would probably be middle of the day. It would never be at night. I know I'm not as productive. So think about that when you are looking at when you can study, and fit it into your schedule and still have quiet time. It should be a time of the day when you have the most energy. 1 hour of good study time is so much better than 4 hours of distraction and not being awake. You just don't have that time in nursing school. Think about, how do you study? Do you listen to tapes? Do you take notes? Do you do concept mapping? Some people find that if they read their lectures out loud when you're in online classes and tape it and then listen to it again in the car, that's a great way to remember what's in those lectures. Looking at YouTube videos. If you're studying med-surg or pharmacology and you don't understand a concept, go to YouTube. There's many nurses nursing type videos out there. There is one by a nursing student who has done a whole series. He actually has a website now, and it's a great series that helps you understand the concepts, pictures. Another thing is if you don't understand a disease process, Google it, use a YouTube video, and look up what does it look like to have Parkinson's disease or myasthenia gravis or something like that. When you get that visual in your head, many times it's much more easy to remember. The only thing is when you're on your computer, make sure you stick with work and do not get distracted by emails or other fun things that you could be looking up on your computer. When you organize your material in a way and you make a routine, whatever that routine is, you will be better at retaining. So it's important to look at that, look at the results of your tests every week. If you've taken a test and you have not done well, schedule an appointment with your instructor and go over that test and see what am I missing, where are my weak areas. Again, use mechanical aids such as acronyms, and that's where the Nurse's Memory Notebook is a handy book because it has a lot of acronyms. Or come up with ways to remember things, songs, whatever it is that you find works for you. Associations, you're learning a new disease. Can you associate it with something that happened in clinical? Definitions, if you're reading something and you don't understand it, please don't pass it by. That one word could be the basis for the next 2 paragraphs. So make sure you're looking things up. Finally, when you're studying, this happens to all of us, we have distractors. We have internal and external distractors. And external distractors are things that make noise, the TV, your cell phone, someone may be ringing your doorbell. But internal distractors are worse because that's what's going on in your mind. And many times when you sit down to study, you start thinking of what you needed to do. So I needed to call the doctor, or I needed to do this, or I need to pick up milk. Don't get up and do it. Take a piece of paper, write it down. Every time you get a thought in your mind, oh, I need to study for a different class, write it down. When you're done studying for this particular class that you are working on, then you go ahead and look at your distractors and take care of those. Another thing you might want to look at is how do you study? Do you study well by yourself or studying in groups? Many times group study is really good, but you need to make sure that you have a good group of students, usually 4 to 6, who want to study. It's not a social time. It is, I always say, you have 5-10 minutes to complain and then get to work, because study groups can be great, but they do need to be organized and everyone needs to be committed. So think about studying alone and then adding later on the week with a study group. Or you can choose a partner who knows nothing about what you're studying, and that way when you're explaining it, that helps you understand. Many times they ask questions and you have to give them an answer. Or choose one person to study with, maybe at the end of the week, to review for tests. What you need to do is have faith in yourself, have a good support system, whether it's a family member or a friend. You need a cheerleader during nursing school. So make sure you have someone that can keep saying, I know this is hard, but keep going. Accept responsibility for yourself and be an active participant in your learning. Take charge of what you're going to do, because the outcome is very important. It's also very important to take care of yourself, make sure you're getting enough sleep, you're exercising, you're eating, because a healthy body and mind is only fuel for studying. Establish a routine, make short-term goals with the long-term goal of getting your degree. You know you'll be having to give up certain things, but in the end, the rewards are great. I'm going to just skip over this one, but I'm going to tell you good luck. You know you can do this. You have a positive attitude. Take what you learned today and actually put it into practice and see if it makes a difference, because the end result will be a degree in nursing, and it's something you will have for the rest of your life, and it's something no one can take away from you. Just so you know, the images from this PowerPoint were taken from the free image site. So I reference that in the end. Good luck to you all as you travel through nursing school.